Hello and welcome back to episode 14 of my podcast, Sunny's Geeky Grove. My name is Sunny. I hope you're doing well today, and I hope you're in for a little bit of a scare. I'm just kidding. Today I'm going to be talking about my favorite horror movies. And if you've been around the channel for any bit of time, you will know that I do have an affinity for horror video games, horror movies, horror comics, horror. I love horror. Give me horror. And, Buffy is a pretty crucial and important part of my upbringing. And a lot of the games that I have talked about, Alan Wake, Left 4 Dead, Friday the 13th game, a lot of those games have horror elements or are completely based in horror, and they are some of my favorite games. So it only stands to reason that I also enjoy horror movies, which, shocker, I do. So with horror, the initial genre is movies that scare, movies that have frightening or grotesque images, conjure up feelings of uneasiness, paranoia, fear, those elements. That is what a horror movie is. Blood, gore, possessions, hauntings, things like that. And there are within horror a lot of subgenres. Horror is the overarching umbrella. And then from that, we have all of our subsets, all of our subgenres. And there are a lot. While you may think one movie fits into one specific category, that's not necessarily going to hold true because a lot of them overlap. It's not necessarily just like, oh, this is a buddy cop comedy. That's pretty much all it's going to be. It's not going to be a buddy cop comedy and a musical and a thriller and horror. It's not going to be that. It's not possible. But with horror, there's such a amalgamation of all of these different tropes and themes and devices that they use to create their movies. Within one particular movie, you might have several different themes that come up. And so it's hard to fit them into one specific tiny category. And that's why there are so many subgenres. Within this podcast episode, I'm going to be sharing with you my favorite, the one that I recommend most. If someone asks, hey, what's your favorite zombie movie? This is the one that I tell them. And you'll find that out later. Zombie is fifth from last. So it'll be a minute before you hear my zombie movie recommendation. There are also people that say zombie movies aren't horror. I tend to disagree. I find them very scary. And there are some subgenres that I found that I would not necessarily classify them as horror, but they are, because they do have those themes. They do create that uneasiness, that tension, that fear, that anxiety. So we will get into that. I will give you a brief rundown of the categories that I will be talking about and giving you my personal recommendations. So, of the horror movie genre, our subgenres are comedy, body horror, natural horror, found footage, holiday horror, psychological, sci-fi, slasher, paranormal, ghost, supernatural. They're not the same. I will explain how they're not later on. Gothic horror, zombie, disaster, teen, home invasion, childlike, and then I will have some bonus rounds, which I will discuss at the end during the bonus round. So let's just jump into it. So comedy horror is exactly what that sounds like. It is a movie that has that grotesque imagery or the terrifying themes, and yet it's funny. It makes you laugh. There are jokes littered throughout or punchlines. And my winner is Shaun of the Dead, 2004, starring Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, and a whole host of other people that you have seen in a bunch of different movies, I'm sure. It is one of the funniest movies that I have ever seen. I know that may be a commentary on what I find funny, but I love Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. I think they are a very dynamic duo. They really play off of each other. There are a lot of little elements in Shaun of the Dead that relate to pop culture. So you're going to have like these nods and winks to Romero and the Romero zombies and the Night of the Living Dead, and because he's the godfather of zombie movies. And you have clips taken from other movies, or not necessarily like on the screen, but you have shots recreated where Simon, or Sean is his character in the movie, is standing in the bathroom and you know you're going to get a jump scare. He shuts the medicine cabinet and the mirror moves and it's standing behind him. Oh, there's his roommate. Oh, it's a jump scare, but he's just a human roommate who's angry. It has these little subtle things that are just so great. It is pretty standard as far as zombie movies go, as far as horror movies go, but it has that charm, for me anyway, where I've seen the movie at least a couple dozen times. Every Halloween I watch it during the 31 Days of Horror, and it's just so funny. I love it so much. I'm always finding something new to be like, oh, that's an Easter egg, because I've exposed myself to new horror movies or to new horror TV shows or comics or something like that. And I see these Easter eggs that I didn't notice before because I didn't have that deep of a well before, but now I do. So I'm always picking up something new. The story's pretty basic, outbreak, people are dying, people turn to zombies. Sean is our protagonist, so we're gonna fight to live. And yeah, I'm not gonna spoil any of the movies in here. I hope I don't spoil anyone. Anyway, let's jump into some honorable mentions, because this was really fucking hard to pick just one. Despite the fact that Shaun of the Dead is my favorite comedy horror movie, it's so hard. So, 1999, Idle Hands, starring Devon Sawa and Seth Green. Also, really solid comedy horror. From 1981, we have The Evil Dead, starring Bruce Campbell. And 2013, Jane Levi. My voice. But the remake was so good. I am going to say something that might be controversial. It's probably not controversial, and it's a pretty widely held opinion that the remake was really good. It was not better than the original for a lot of people, but it was for me. I have seen the original all but once. I've seen the remake a few times. The remake scares me. I found myself actually having like a little slight panic attack. So I strongly recommend the 2013 one. Plus 50,000 gallons of blood for that end scene. Whoo! And last but not least, our honorable mention is the 2009 Woody Harrelson, Emma Stone, Abigail Breslin, and Jesse Eisenberg film, Zombieland. Obviously, couldn't have a comedy horror category and not mention Zombieland. Since it is an honorable mention, chances are it's not going to win any other category. Sorry. Moving on to body horror. That definition of this subgenre is exactly what you think it is, I'm sure. It's mutations of the human body to create extreme disfigurement and invoke a sense of repulsion from the audience. So with this one, 2009 Slither. It stars Nathan Fillion, Elizabeth Banks, and it's a James Gunn film. This movie, I swear, it's so gross and it's so good. It's just, oh my gosh. They're like these little worms. They're about like probably 2 inches thick, about 5 inches long, 2 inches in circumference for all you mathematicians saying I got it wrong. And, you know, they slither. It's like earwigs, basically. They inhabit the body and they mutate it and you're its host and it takes over and your body's bleh. It's so gross. I love it. I know this might be one that people kind of overlook. It has become a cult classic and it has a very strong cult following because of the fact that, you know, it's a James Gunn film. It's a Nathan Fillion film. Those two together had really great chemistry. I think that if any other actor was in the lead role, it would have come across as 100% cheese. I'm sure for some viewers, it might be extremely cheesy. They can't watch it. They don't like the body horror or anything like that, which is fair. I mean, the mutations, you know, that kind of subgenre of horror is difficult for some people. I personally don't mind feeling grossed out every now and again. I have seen Slither a lot. I will admit, I have a crush on Nathan Fillion. He will always be my captain, Captain Malcolm Reynolds, brown coats for life. But I digress. Slither is such a good movie with really great effects. I believe that they tried to do practical effects more than CGI. Obviously, there were going to be instances when they had to have CGI, but a lot of prosthetics, a lot of fake blood. Super great. Super loved it. Our honorable mention for this category is District 9. That's the 2009 film starring Sharlto Copley. Sounds like I pronounced that wrong. But that is the alien invasion film. And the reason why this counts is because the aliens can take over your body. We don't see it often in the film. We see just like the after effects. We don't see the slowly mutation until towards the end. That's not a spoiler because I'm not spoiling who it happens to. I promise. It's been out since 2009, 10 years. If you haven't seen it, I'm sorry. They came out in the same year. I'm just noticing that. Anyway, it's a pretty great film. Obviously, it has kind of like sci-fi elements. Like I said, these movies tend to bleed into other categories. And so it kind of makes it easier for me to pick. Because, I have the choice. So many options it could fit into. Natural horror is typically from animals or plants. And so for this one, my winner is the 1975 film Jaws, starring Roy Schneider and Richard Dreyfuss. Dreyfuss? Dude, whatever. If for some reason you have no idea what Jaws is, how do you live with yourself? You don't have to have seen it. Like, that's fine. It's an old movie. And they are slow build up. Even if there's action that happens in the very first cold open with the skinny dipping girl, it then lulls. Trust me, I know. It's hard to get through, especially if you're used to today's films with the fast pace, the heavy action, not dragging from Act 1 to Act 2 to Act 3. I get it. But it is that, like, penultimate natural horror film. It is the one that legitimately made people afraid of the water. That animatronic shark is so wonderfully done. They, had issues with it where it would malfunction and some of the shots looked wonky, but they just filmed from a different angle or used a different scene setting, and it just was perfect. There's obviously, you can't really compare it to today's films, what with our CGI and how we've gotten better with practical effects and animatronics. And I mean, Jurassic Park is wonderful in that sense. However, it was 1975. And have we had a Jaws remake? We've had knockoffs. Don't get me wrong. We've had people try to imitate. But we have never had Jaws 2018. Because how can you cannot really capture just how fearful everyone was seeing that movie. They legitimately had fears of sharks after that. And who knows, what psychological impact that had, but impressive for that, that film to have that impact. I love it. It's not something that I am like, oh, I've got a hankering to watch Jaws. It's more, I recognize the impact it had and how everything fails and pales in comparison. Speaking of paling in comparison, the honorable mention in this category is Piranha 3D. Piranha 3D is a 2010 film starring Elizabeth Shue, Adam Scott, Richard Dreyfuss, and Jerry O'Connell. Richard Dreyfuss? God damn. It's the same actor. This movie is also kind of a comedy movie. It doesn't take itself too seriously, especially with the stupid 3D effects. That gimmick, boy. When 3D is done well and actually filmed with 3D cameras, it's great. But when you have post-production 3D, I'm not going to get into this too much. If you want to know my thoughts on it, leave a comment. And if more than no one wants it, then I'll make a video all about horror movie and movie gimmicks in general. But I digress. Piranha 3D, comedy horror, natural horror, so much blood, so many scantily clad boys and girls on the screen, lots of butts, lots of chicks in bikinis and close-ups of it. But Adam Scott was amazing in it. Jerry O'Connell, also amazing in it, even though he's in literally the worst Scream. Well, I can't be too hard on Scream 2. I guess Scream 3 does exist. Not the point. I blacked that out. Piranha 3D, it's okay. It's okay. Next, let's move on to found footage. If you don't know what found footage films are, they are shot in a first-person point of view, as if someone were holding a camera and recording the action. So there's less shots, wide shots of the room where you're seeing everything. It's like if you were recording something on your phone. I don't know why I explained all that. I really hope you know what found footage films are. But my winner is Paranormal Activity from 2007, starring Katie Featherston and Micah Slott. That film reinvigorated the found footage subgenre. Obviously, Blair Witch did it first, did it best. It sparked a new subgenre that just took off. And we give props to Blair Witch, but we don't choose it because that movie is fucking boring. And Paranormal Activity is also kind of fucking boring. But let's be honest, it spawned some really great sequels. They got worse as, the series went on, but this first one was shot in a $10,000 budget in the director's house. Katie and Micah, I think they said that they would do it for free, but they would star in it for free. They would act in it for free, but then they wanted, the money at the end, when it came out in theaters, if it did well. Like, it feels really homegrown, indie. It feels genuine. It feels kind of like that Blair Witch feeling that you get. As if you're legitimately seeing footage collected from Micah. And you're seeing Micah and Katie living with this. Obviously, the ending, that was that $30,000 change. But it was worth it. I'm not going to spoil it. I know it's old, but the ending's the best part, and it's like the last 5 minutes. There are a lot of slow burn aspects to it, and just so many wonderful things. They have the tension rising with seeing the same shots and the same night footage just sped up, and you're like, oh, should I be looking, down the hallway? Should I be looking at the foot of the bed? Where should I be looking on the screen? Where you're anticipating where the scare is going to come from, and then it doesn't happen. You let your guard down, and then the next scene something happens. That tension build is phenomenal because you're expecting something and they subvert your expectations and give you nothing. And then 2 minutes later, they hit you with it. And you're like, I didn't see that coming. And you legitimately didn't see that coming. I saw this, I believe, opening weekend when it went nationwide in a completely sold out theater with a few people standing in the rows. It was by far the best experience I have ever had. It was so much fun. I have never felt a movie theater buzz and hum with terror, anxiety, panic, paranoia in my life. It was fun. You will never be able to recreate that because the second one, no one gave a shit. Like, no fucks were given at all. And that's understandable because, it was not really a movie that needed a sequel, in my opinion. I think it was cool to learn more about why Toby was haunting Katie, but it wasn't necessary. So from that, we jump to 7 years later for our honorable mention of Unfriended, 2014, starring Shelley Henning and Courtney Halverson. This movie takes place over a Skype telephone call, a group phone call, and it takes place predominantly on the laptop screen. So you get to see what she is doing while, the other people are talking. And it's remarkable. It's a lot of fun. It has some cool kills. It's got a good story. I recommend it, obviously. Next is holiday horror. This is a movie set around a specific holiday. So for this one, it was really hard for me not to pick, Halloween. Because, let's face it, Halloween did some good. Especially the 2018 remake, Halloween 2018. So good. But I went ahead and gave it to Black Christmas Remake, 2006, starring Michelle Trachtenberg and Katie Cassidy, because I am a sucker for Michelle Trachtenberg and all actors from Buffy or the Whedonverse. Black Christmas Remake, not the original. I'm sure the original is much better. I've never seen it. But Black Christmas Remake, I legitimately watch it during my 31 Days of Horror every year. And at Christmas, because it's a freaking Christmas movie. That's right, it's set during Christmas. There are Christmas carols, Christmas lights, Christmas trees, Christmas presents. So I watch it at Christmas too. It's so dumb. It takes place at a sorority. There was a mom. There was a boy. There was incest and a child of incest that she then raised, and the one that was, then he goes crazy, but it's good. There are some inventive kills. It's shot wonderfully. I can't really complain about lighting or anything like that. I feel like the cinematography is pretty good. It has been a couple months since I've seen it, but it's one of those movies that basic plot, a character has an effed up backstory, seeks revenge by killing. Here's our new group. Here's the final girl. People start dying. She lives. She defeats our killer. Or did she? Basic. It doesn't bring anything new to the genre, except it's amazing, and I love it. Honorable mentions: 2009's My Bloody Valentine, starring Jensen Ackles and Jamie King, also a remake. It's about a miner, a coal miner, working in the mines, and he kills people on Valentine's Day. And my last honorable mention is the 2007 Halloween remake by Rob Zombie, starring Malcolm McDonald and Sherry Moon Zombie. I do not like the director's cut. That is the one that I have. I feel like there is a scene towards the beginning that is wholly unnecessary, only in there for shock value. We already know these two inmates at this insane asylum are depraved and awful, terrible, horrible people. You don't need to include that specific scene. I don't like talking about it. I don't like watching it. I fast forward through it. If I could, I would get the theatrical release, because I've seen James and Janice do the kill count on the Halloween franchise, all of the movies. Shout out to James and Janice and the Dead Meat YouTube channel, because my favorite. But he does cut comparisons, and I watched a theatrical director release cut comparison of it. Literally, it's the same movie with just some longer scenes that don't add anything to the story, and there is that scene. So if you can, theatrical release, it's better. Usually director's cut's the way that I like to go, or unrated version, but just for that one particular scene that legitimately adds zero, whew, I'm getting heated. Let's move on to psychological horror. That focuses on the mental, emotional, and psychological states to unnerve, disturb, and frighten viewers. It often overlaps with psychological thriller, where it uses mystery, unsettling, or upsetting atmosphere to create tension, such as horrifying creatures or serial killers. And this is one that seems pretty easy in my opinion. The winner is Silence of the Lambs, 1991, Anthony Hopkins, Jodie Foster. This movie is about Buffalo Bill, the serial killer. He takes larger women, starves them, skins them, wears their skin as a dress, as a suit, and I don't know why I'm laughing. It's not funny. And honestly, Hannibal Lecter is iconic. He is just so iconic. Everybody knows about that mask and him rolling in on, the dolly with the straitjacket. Everybody quotes, "And I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti." I'm not going to do the teeth suck thing, because I can't. And it's just, it has twists and turns. It has that tension, that unsettling nature about what, Buffalo Bill does to his captive women, how Hannibal eats his victims, and he's a freaking cannibal. It has all of those elements that just make you feel gross. I love it. But our honorable mention is actually The Babadook, 2014, Essie Davis and Noah Wiseman The Babadook is fairly artistic. It has such wonderful cinematography. It's shot so well. It has this deeper allegory or metaphor for, pain and PTSD and suffering, and the allegory that it plays for that is just, it doesn't beat you over the head with it, which some movies do, and then some artistic films leave it so wide open to interpretation that you don't fully understand it at the end. But this one paints such a clear picture of what exactly it wants to say, and it gets its point across so well that I would say most people that watch it understand what the Babadook is at the end and how it affects our main characters. It is, I believe, still streaming on Netflix. I think it is a Netflix original. I don't think it is. But I strongly recommend it if you don't mind thinking a little bit in your horror movies. Next, we move on to sci-fi horror. This blends elements of sci-fi such as foreign plants or entities to create tension and to frighten the viewers. This one, I only have a winner. I don't have an honorable mention because I feel like this one is kind of so specific that I don't know. My winner is The Cell from 2000. It stars Jennifer Lopez and Vince Vaughn. It's about this, agent, this therapist. Gosh, why can't I remember what she is? I'm blanking right now, but essentially they're trying to find where this serial killer has his current victim, and they captured him, and there's this mechanism that allows her to go into his subconscious and inside his brain. And, it's gonna be all dangerous because he's crazy. He's a serial killer. Oh no, Jennifer Lopez, be careful. I mean, it's great. It's the early 2000s. It's 2000. So we have overabundance of CGI, lots of vast setscapes where it's open and then there's bright colors, crisp whites, lots of flowy fabric. Oh gosh, just so much CGI. And it has some weird sexual over and undertones. They hit you over the head with some, and then some of them are just so subtle that you're like, are you sure you want to do that? And then they do it, and you're like, why though? It's pretty good. Like I said, I don't have an honorable mention for that because I don't want to. Moving on, slasher films. That, if you don't know, I say slasher films, what's the ones that come to mind? Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Friday the 13th. It's a movie that that focuses on a violent psychopath stalking and killing, usually and typically with a bladed weapon. So Freddy has his glove of blades, Jason has his machete or pitchfork, or, the fishing spear, bladed weapon. And Michael has his butcher's knife. So my winner, though, is Scream from 1996, starring Neve Campbell, Jamie Kennedy, Skeet Ulrich, and Matthew Lillard. Scream. How I love you. I love Scream. Ghostface is the best slasher. Fight me on it. Fight me. He is, first of all, two people. That's a twist. Spoiler. This movie is over 20 years old. If you haven't seen it, I don't care. That was a spoiler. Yeah. Ghostface is just, you don't see it coming. There are clues. And then they're like, hey, gongs and sirens and flashing lights as something happens on the screen. And they're like, it's him, it's her, it's so-and-so, it's this person. Why don't you think it's this person? And then you're like, it's fucking that person. I fucking knew it. And then the next scene, they present new information and you're like, wait, but... so it couldn't be that person because X, Y, and Z. Oh my gosh. Oh man, I guess it wasn't. And then at the end they're like, haha, psych, it was. And you're like, ah, Scream, you got me. It's one of those films that just, a lot of people have said it. I'm not having an original thought or opinion here. It revitalized the horror genre, the slasher genre. It had a twist ending that hadn't been done in a while, that was refreshing and inventive, not necessarily redefining anything in the genre, but doing it and executing it so well that no one saw it coming. It's just, I mean, wonderful, right? Yeah, it's... I haven't even said what it's about. Scream is about Sidney Prescott. Her mom was murdered. A year later, people start dying in the town. Oh no! Yeah, that's not big, huge plot. The second and third movies are... well, the third movie's trash. I forget about its existence every now and then, which is funny because Scream 4 is probably my second favorite. So I'm like, how is Scream 4 if there's only 3 films? The second one's okay. I hate how they killed a specific character. That's fine. He wasn't the lifeblood of the film series or anything, but whatever. Scream 4, actually really good. It has a lot of, like, you know, big named actors and actresses in it. Neve Campbell did come back. So did David Arquette and Courtney Cox. So that's pretty great. So that was also a spoiler that those characters come back. Anyway, moving on to the honorable mentions. Freddy vs. Jason, because why pick just one when you can have 2? You get Freddy and Jason. Perfect. It's horrible. It's also great. It has kind of lame writing. There's some dumb jokes in there, but overall you get to see Freddy and Jason on the big screen together, sharing that screen time. And then another honorable mention is the 1984 very first Nightmare on Elm Street starring Robert Englund. He is really cool. I've sat in on a panel of his at a Comic-Con, and he's a really chill guy. He loves the fact that he is Freddy Krueger, and he loves his fans, and he is my favorite of the big 3, if you will. I classify Friday the 13th, Halloween, and Nightmare on Elm Street as the big 3. Most people have heard of at least 2 of those, I swear. And you might not know, oh, Michael Myers, but you know Halloween, and you know that he walks around in that white face with a butcher knife. So, if you don't like Scream, maybe you'll like Nightmare on Elm Street. If not, give Friday the 13th a shot. If you're looking for Jason in the first one, he's not in there. He doesn't come in until part 2. Just a little extra spoilers, because why not? Let's move on to paranormal ghost horror. These are exactly like it seems. There is a ghost there. Our winner is Insidious, 2010, starring Patrick Wilson and Rose Byrne. Insidious is about their son, and he's in a coma and he won't wake up, and they're being haunted. Oh, and he's in the further. Like, okay, some of their names for stuff and like the look, like they got that Darth Maul looking demon. It's still so good. It's so scary. It kept me on edge. The Insidious series is so good. I believe there's 4. Insidious 1 and 2, which are basically, I feel like they filmed them back to back. It was so cohesive, those 2 films. And then Insidious 3 is where it's basically a prequel. And, we learn about why she doesn't do that anymore. We learn more about the main lady. Oh boy. Lynn Shay plays Elise Rayner. That's who it is. She is the psychic that can go into the further. We learn more about her and a bit of her backstory. It's all great fun. And then there is another like prequel one, like Insidious The Last Key or something like that. I've never seen it. Yeah, but the first one is great. We have a few honorable mentions in this category. I really struggled actually picking one for this category because so many of my favorite movies tend to fall into the paranormal ghost subgenre of horror. So Pulse, 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 from 2006, starring Kristen Bell. She is wonderful. Christina Million's also in it for a bit. It is about basically ghosts that possess you and kill you through the internet and cell service. Creepy. Then we have The Others from 2001, starring Nicole Kidman. It was a twist that I did not see coming. It was M. Night Shyamalan level twist, and it was not written by M. Night Shyamalan. It also came out 2 years after The Sixth Sense, so it might not have been revolutionary, but it was good. I didn't see it coming. Then we have from 2002, The Ring, starring Naomi Watts. That is the video that you watch, and then you get a phone call from Samara, and then she says, 7 days. And then in 7 days, you die, because that's how long you can survive in a well without food and potable water, I guess. I assume that well wasn't potable since she was, like, dying in there. I don't know. Anyway, it's good. 13 Ghosts from 2001, starring Tony Shalhoub, Matthew Lillard, my boy, and Shannon Elizabeth. It's about Tony Shalhoub's character. He has an uncle that dies, and that uncle leaves him his house. And it is made of glass, and Matthew Lillard's character sees ghosts and can communicate with ghosts. And there are ghosts. There are 13 of them. And our last one is Oculus, 2013, starring Karen Gillan. Ooh boy, this one. It's a little confusing in some parts, what's taking place in the past and what's taking place in the present, but they think it's in the past. It's hard to say. The confusing timelines and the flashbacks are not necessarily very clear, but it's basically about a mirror that possesses and kills people. Great fun. Supernatural horror. So, it is similar to paranormal, but it more is focused on possessions, demons, has a heavy religious aspect, though not always, obviously, but typically. This one, a lot of times when people say something like this, the movie that comes to mind is the original Omen. The Omen. But my winner is The Skeleton Key, the 2005 film starring Kate Hudson and Peter Sarsgaard, not to be confused with the Skarsgårds. It is about this young woman who goes to be a caretaker in kind of like the bayou in New Orleans, and she is taking care of this older couple. This older couple. I think it's a couple. It's been a minute since I've seen it. And basically, they start prepping her body to be taken over. But she can only do that if she believes in hoodoo, not voodoo. Very different, but not really. The movie basically blurs voodoo and hoodoo together, which they are very different. I'm not going to get into that. But essentially, I can't really talk much about it because I don't want to give away any endings. Even though it is a 14-year-old film, I don't want to spoil it. It's very similar to one that just recently came out. Not necessarily in tone or in its metaphor, but in the twist. Anyway, honorable mention, Drag Me to Hell, 2009, starring Alison Lohman and Justin Long. It's another one that has kind of a touchy subject because it's, wow. Basically, Alison Lohman's character declines an older woman a loan extension, and this older woman is... I don't even want to say it. Like, you'll just have to Google it because basically she curses her with a button. She takes a button, hexes her, curses her, shoves it down her mouth, blah, 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 barfs into her mouth, and I'm not going to give away the ending. Obviously, I'm really trying here. Sometimes I get so excited. But, yeah, it's... My second and last runner-up for supernatural horror is The Possession, 2012, starring Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Papa Winchester, from Supernatural. It is a really great movie about this little girl finding a box, a Dybbuk box, and Dybbuk is Hebrew for demon, if you didn't know. And there's some wacky, zany possession antics and hijinks, and, you know, it has a pretty good twist ending that I did not anticipate, and you get to see Jeffrey Dean Morgan for like 2 hours. What could go wrong? Next category is gothic horror. So this one is not necessarily blood and gore and serial killers and demons. It has elements of Victorian Gothic literature, oftentimes with romance mixed in. So think of like Edgar Allan Poe or Charles Dickens, things like that. So my winner is Crimson Peak, the 2015 Guillermo del Toro film starring Tom Hiddleston, Jessica Chastain, Mia Wasikowska. God damn, I butchered that. It's essentially a couple that lives in this grandiose castle house and invites this younger woman in, and yeah. So it's really beautifully done. The set design, the costume design, the CGI, everything was really good about it. It's not like that horror, like there's people dying left and right, dismembered body parts. It's not like that. It's more of just the macabre, and it just has tension, and yeah, I I'm struggling to find words without spoiling it, so I'm just going to move on. There's no honorable mention for this one. Zombie horror. So zombies are reanimated corpses. My winner is Resident Evil Apocalypse, 2014, starring Mila Jovovich. I fucking love this movie. I have seen it probably 75 times. I kid you not, my friend. It is by far my favorite of the Resident Evil series. It has, oh my gosh, it just has so much wonderful, I can't, I mean, it has Alice, you know, the made-up character for the films. It has Jill Valentine. It has the stars. It has Project Nemesis. It has all of those really campy early 2000s CGI and computer graphics and like, just the horrible, like, oh, I'm going to find my daughter on the close circuit televisions all around town by opening up my Sony Vaio laptop and I'm going to find my daughter. Sir, board the plane. Not without my daughter. Like, we get it. Your daughter. But it adds to the lore and you figure out all these fun things, and plus it introduces you to Carlos Oliveira, and I mean, come on. He is the leader of the Magi. That's a Mummy reference if you didn't get it. It is just, it introduces all these wonderful characters. Obviously, like, not all of them, because they have to save characters for the third and so on, but it's one of those movies where if I'm ever feeling like I want something on, but I need to focus on this, but I really want to have background noise, but I also want to be entertained when I look up, Resident Evil Apocalypse. The others are good. The first one's probably not number 2. Honestly, I kind of think the 6th one is my second favorite. Resident Evil Final Chapter. Yeah, let's move on to the honorable mentions. Zombieland, again, because why not? And then Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, 2016, starring Lily James and Sam Riley. Also, Matt Smith is in it, and he was the 11th Doctor, if you didn't know. And he was phenomenal in that. Basically, it is legitimately Pride and Prejudice and zombies. The zombies are pretty cool. They can talk, and they have kind of cognitive thoughts, and they're sentient, and they don't just have the need to feed, though some do, obviously. It introduces different ways of detecting zombies other than just looking at them. So, yeah, I mean, whew, boy, it's good. If you haven't read Pride and Prejudice, that's okay, because I had not read it all. I still haven't read it all. I've read the first, part. I've seen Colin Firth and Keira Knightley one, the movie, the miniseries, whatever. But yeah, disaster horror. So this is one kind of like natural horror that I didn't, I got when I read the definition. I understood why it was a subgenre of horror, but I don't initially think of disaster movies as horror films. I think of them more as action movies, but it makes a lot of sense. So a horror movie, impending or ongoing disaster as its subject and primary plot device. Such disasters include natural disasters like floods, earthquakes, tsunamis, an asteroid, accidents like shipwrecks or a plane crash, or calamities like worldwide disease pandemics. So for this one, when I read that definition and synthesized it and really understood what they were talking about, I could see it, obviously. And my winner is Outbreak from 1995, starring Dustin Hoffman, Renee Russo, and Morgan Freeman. Whew, that movie gave me nightmares for months. It was so bad. I was so young when I saw that movie. Ooh, boy. Yeah. It's basically a disease caused by African monkeys, and someone on an expedition brings back the disease into the United States, and then a pandemic breaks out. It's fairly simple, fairly standard. I'm sure you've seen something similar to it time and time again. I enjoyed it. Honorable mention, World War Z, 2013, starring Brad Pitt. I'm sure most of you know what that's about. It's about zombies. You know, all hell breaks loose when a contagion gets out in the air, and then turns out being diseased makes the zombies not want to eat you. And then my second honorable mention is Twister, 1996, starring Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton. Fantastic film about tornadoes. Let's move on to teen horror. So these focused on plots and tropes aimed towards teens and has a cast of, in quotations, teenaged characters. So for this one, my winner is Jennifer's Body, 2009, starring Megan Fox and Amanda Seyfried. This movie could also fall into the supernatural. She is possessed by a demon. Megan Fox is the main... Well, she's Jennifer, and she's possessed. And there's blood, there's deaths, there's chicks kissing, there's prom. You know, it's peppy and funny and snarky and set in high school. But oops, there's a demon in her body. It's so much fun. I don't really have many negative things to say about it. I actually think Megan Fox was really great in it. This was 2009, so she hadn't really gotten super weird. And my honorable mention is a movie that so many people dislike. So many people dislike this movie. 2018 stars Lucy Hale and Tyler Posey and Landon Limbron from Degrassi. Truth or Dare? This movie, I mean, I don't know why people hated it so much. It was so much fun. They go on spring break. It's the senior break of our senior year. This is our last time we're ever going to be together. But they go to Mexico and they're chilling and they're getting drunk. And, ooh, who's that cute boy? And so, let's go to this abandoned place and drink, even though we can drink here at this bar that we're at and currently all pretty drunk at. So then they go and follow this strange white boy, Landon Limbron, and they end up playing Truth or Dare. And then, now there's a demon taking over, and it forces you to do stuff, and if you don't do it, then you'll die. It was so much fun. I don't understand why people disliked it. I had fun watching it. It was a great time. Home invasion. That is when someone invades someone's home. My winner is 2016's Hush, starring Kate Siegel, not to be confused with Katie Siegel. Home invasion. That's when someone invades your home. My winner is 2016's Hush, starring Kate Siegel and John Gallagher Jr. Kate plays a woman who is deaf, and she lives out in the middle of freaking nowhere because of course she does. Of course she does. And her neighbor is fairly close. I mean, they set it up that like the neighbor can see her house, I think. But, like, she has kind of spotty cell service. She has fine internet. Every now and then it goes down, I guess. Basically, this man notices the fact that she's deaf. And it's a standoff for her life. It's so good. It's so well acted. Believable characters. The tension's real. It was so hard to choose between this and my honorable mention for Home Invasions, because my honorable mention is You're Next, 2011, starring Sharni Vinson. It's one of those movies where I swear the protagonist, our final girl, does everything that people in the audience always say. Oh, well, if I were there, I'd do this. Well, if I were in that situation, I would just do blah, blah. She does everything right. You're like, oh, well, why doesn't she? She is gonna, yeah, she's got that. Yeah, she's good. You're sitting there and watching these invaders come in, and you're rooting for her, and you don't even have to root that hard because she's got this. These two movies, Hush and You're Next, are so similar in that respect that it's so much fun. Next category is childlike horror. This one is one that I basically made up. I mean, I didn't, but it's a scary movie aimed towards young children that has elements of horror, such as ghosts or witches, but isn't necessarily focused on just scaring the viewer. So, obviously, my winner is Hocus Pocus, 1993, Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, Kathy Najimy. This movie is probably the perfect movie. Yeah, I'm going to let that linger. The perfect movie. It has witches, talking cats, a small, quaint New England town. I mean, it has the 90s and Halloween and candy and inappropriate humor. Just, it's so good. It's so good. I honestly don't know if I've ever met somebody who hadn't seen Hocus Pocus. If you haven't, my heart, it hurts. Honorable mention, 1995's Casper, starring Bill Pullman and Christina Ricci. It's about a ghost, and it's wholesome, and Devon Sawa is Casper. And, yeah. Devon Sawa and Christina Ricci, I shipped them before I even knew what shipping was. Just like Corey and Topanga. But, yeah. Side note, Devon Sawa and Christina Ricci are really great. And they were in Now and Then, this really great, like, wholesome coming-of-age movie. I strongly recommend it. Very, very off-tangent recommendation. And my last honorable mention is Disney Channel original movie Halloween Town, 1998. Starring Debbie Reynolds and Kimberly J. Brown. Basically, Kimberly J. Brown plays Marnie, and she's a witch, and Halloween Town is where all the monsters live, and all the witches. Ooh, parallel dimension. It's so cute. But that is the end of our main categories. I do have a few bonus rounds. I have 4. So these are ones that aren't necessarily a subgenre, but are, in my opinion. They tend to be super, super hyper focused on one specific aspect. So let's start with the first one, video game adaptation. A film based upon a video game, either real or fake. So my winner is Stay Alive, 2006, John Foster, Samari Armstrong, Frankie Muniz. I know what you're thinking. Stay Alive isn't a real video game. I know. But the entire movie is focused around a video game. You could also say that Jumanji is a horror movie based on a video game. Well, a board game. But Stay Alive is just, oh my gosh. It has, like, in the beginning, they get the copy of the video game, and they're pressing all these buttons, and, oh, why isn't it going? And then someone's like, maybe you have to read what's on the screen. Oh, that's technology that hasn't been invented yet. And then they start reading, and the letters burn off of the page. On the screen, obviously. And they're like, whoa, what? This is so weird. And it's just like, obviously, it's old. It's from 2006, right? So, I mean, it's so good. And if you die in the game, you die for real. Like, come on. How could you not love it? Plus Frankie Muniz. And isn't Samari Armstrong the chick from One Tree Hill? Come on, people. Actually, I don't think it is. I don't know. I've never seen One Tree Hill. It's so good. But it stars the Countess, and it has basically... It has... Its focus of the video game, which is also the movie, is on this woman who bathed in the blood of these young children that she kidnapped. And I love that because that is basing this video game on Elizabeth Bathory. Elizabeth Bathory was a Hungarian serial killer who, with a reported 3 other men. She was the only woman. They killed over 405 young boys and girls. And there's a lot of wild speculation about her. I love Elizabeth Bathory as far as, like, the history and the oddity of it, not necessarily the killing of almost 500 children. That's just disgusting. Awful people. Terrible. They needed to pay for what they did. Look her up. Research her. She's great. So this movie focuses on that. It's a lot of fun. It has horrible graphics. It makes me feel like I'm playing Oblivion. Or like one of the original Resident Evil games. So much fun. Speaking of, my honorable mentions. Resident Evil from 2002. Silent Hill from 2006. Starring Radha Mitchell, Laurie Holden, and Sean Bean. Silent Hill is phenomenal. Pyramid Head is probably the most iconic thing from that city other than the fog. I swear everybody knows about that stupid fog thing and the meme, and even people that never played the game or saw the movie. And then my last one for honorable mention is Doom 2005, starring Carl Urban, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and Rosamund Pike. Because I love Doom, and it's like the first, like, game that I got super sucked into. Foreign language. This is a film that is in a foreign language. My winner is Guillermo del Toro's Pan's Labyrinth from 2006, starring Ivana Baquero, Ardina Gil, and Sergio Lopez. It is a beautiful movie. It is just, oh wow, it's breathtaking. The imagery, the CGI, the costumes. It's set in World War II in Nazi Germany. But I think they speak Spanish. It's subtitled in English. I'm pretty sure they're speaking Spanish. Maybe the mom and the daughter are Spanish and then it's German. Doesn't matter. Not the point. Basically, this girl gets lost in the labyrinth and the pale man with the hands, with the eyes and the palms. I'm sure you've seen that picture around. Pale Man, Pan's Labyrinth. Iconic. So good. So scary. Not a true horror like slasher or gore, grotesque. It's just haunting, and it's hauntingly beautiful. Next, we have torture porn. This one is exactly what you're thinking, where the characters on screen get hurt in over-the-top ways, over-the-top kills, sadistic, disgusting, disturbing, just bleh. My winner is Saw 2, 2005, starring Johnny Wahlberg, Beverly Mitchell, and Frankie G. Saw 2 was the best of the series, in my humble opinion. It had the best traps, the best twist. Well, second best twist. My honorable mention is Saw from 2004, starring Carrie Elwes, Leigh Whannell, and Danny Glover. Ultimately, the twist at the end of Saw was really great. I thought that the acting in the first one was a little subpar. In the second one, you kind of had a higher caliber of actors. Even though Beverly Mitchell is on that list, I still feel like the acting in the second one was better. Plus, having Amanda there, and you're like, shit, she's back? She's in this trap? Oh my god! Like, getting to see more of Amanda, I feel like that was just wonderful. And it had, like I said, the best traps. The ones that you could have survived if you just thought clearly, or if you just did things slowly, like trying to find the key in that needle pit, or that one would hurt, but you could have probably, if you did it slower, if you had more time, you probably could have done it without getting stuck and without hurting yourself so much. But lots of great traps. Obviously, Saw 1 was revolutionary. It didn't have super over-the-top torture porn, but it had enough. The series, as it went on, it digressed and it got worse. By the 3D one, you had that carousel where their heads just exploded. That was gratuitous in a way that was unnecessary, I feel. And it didn't shock me. I sat there and I just thought, wow. Okay, who cares? This is the 17th time you've shown us an explode head. Like, we get it. Can you get back to having some really great beatable traps? Like, those people on that carousel couldn't beat it. They could plead for their life. Like, how dare you? How dare you, Hoffman? And my last category, I've been talking for a while, and if you're still here, my last category is TV shows. My winner is iZombie. It started in 2015. There are currently 4 seasons on Netflix. The 5th season is airing now. It stars Rose McIver. She is British, but she does a pretty believable American accent. And it's great. It's about zombies. They can talk. They have cognitive processes. They eat. They can eat food, but they take on the personality of the brain that they eat. It's great. It's basically a cop procedural with zombies. Like, oh my god, it's so much fun. The 5th season is going to be the final season. It is airing right now on the CW. If you are out of the States, I have no idea what your comparable thing is. The CW, for a few of their shows, have a deal with Netflix for Canada that the day that they come out in the day after they come out in the United States and premiere, they're available that next day on Netflix in Canada. I don't know about all of the CW shows, and I don't know about any other countries. I do know for a few select, such as Riverdale, they do have that done, that deal made. So you might be able to see it on there. But my honorable mentions are Supernatural, 2005, starring Jared Padalecki, Jensen Ackles. and they're the core of the show. Lots and lots of people. They are going on season 15. Oh my god, they've been on so long. So long. It ended at 5. Anyway, Eric Kripke is the creator. He was on board as a showrunner for the first 5 seasons, and it was fantastic. The first few seasons are more of a monster of the week. There is a general overall arc, but it's not necessarily, every episode has to do with the big bad of the season. You get some, I'd call them filler episodes, but the first 2 seasons are more just fun. Like, you're getting to know the characters, you're getting to know backstories and stuff like that. Next, I have 2 more honorable mentions for TV shows. The next one is Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel. Buffy came out in 1997, starring Sarah Michelle Gellar, Allison Hannigan, Anthony Stewart Head, Nicholas Brendan, Charisma Carpenter, David Boreanaz. I could go on, but I won't. It is a great show about chicks killing demons and vampires, and a lot of good messages for the time. The feminism didn't necessarily age well. If that's not your bag, then great. You get to see horrendous 90s fashion and hair. You get to hear the awful puns and jokes and popular cultural little quips that they make. And you get to just enjoy Buffy. I recommend it. Angel, spinoff, David Boreanaz, Charisma Carpenter, blah, blah, blah. My last recommendation is Netflix's Chilling Adventures of Sabrina 2018, starring Kieran Shipka, Ross Lynch, and Lucy Davis. It is a gritty and dark retelling of Sabrina from the Archie comics. I just learned that there is a comic series that it's also based on, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. That came out in 2016. I've not read them, so there might be Easter eggs, but I just finished part 2 of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina a couple days ago, last night maybe even. I don't remember. What day is it? Anyway, I just finished it. It does kind of in the middle of part 2, a little bit towards the beginning, I kind of feel like the writers from Riverdale came over to the writers of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina and said, hey, you guys are too serious, and this makes too much sense. You need to throw in some shit that doesn't fucking do with anything and just give it some cheese. Because it loses itself a little bit in the middle, and then it finds itself again at the end. This isn't a review of it. Anyway, if you want the review of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, leave a comment down below. Anyway, no. Yeah. So, it's about Sabrina. It's dark. It's gritty. It's not like the comics. Not like the Archie comics. And it's not like the ABC show that you saw on TGIF. It is not like that. It is dark. It is very, like, Hail Satan. And, oh, what in hell is this? And they mean it in a positive way. And what in the heavens? In a negative way. It's very much dark and gritty. If that's not your thing, don't watch it. Because it's great fun if you're not opposed to that language and imagery and things like that. So this is, I believe, by far my longest podcast episode. This beats out Fallout 3. I am just, round of applause for me for talking for over for over an hour and 15 minutes. Anyway, I basically talked the entire duration of Truth or Dare 2018, starring Lucy Hale and Tyler Posey. I liked it. I really don't know why people didn't like it. Anyway, I am curious, what are your thoughts if you made it this far, which I bet not a single person is here. If you did make it this far, though, what is your favorite horror movie? You can choose any of the subgenres. You can choose one as a whole. I really do want to know. If you want to go through every subgenre and list your favorite, hell yes. I am nosy and I want to know. Let's start a conversation. I said that. And halfway through, I hated myself for saying it. That's what happened. That is indeed what happened. So this outro has gone to mess. Anyway, my name's been Sunny. You've been awesome. If you liked this video, this podcast episode, please give me a thumbs up. It helps me out a lot. If you disliked it, leave a thumbs up. It helps me out a lot. And leave a comment down below of what your favorite movie is. If you agree with anything that I said, if you have strong feelings about what I said, maybe you hate one of my choices. I'm sure you do. Anyway, click subscribe if you want to be, a subscriber. If you want to be one of my subs. And ring the bell if you want to get a push notification on your phone if you have the YouTube app. Or it sends emails. Yeah, it does that. I haven't had a problem with it. Apparently, big creators do. I'm not a big creator yet. Wow. Like this video if you liked it. If you didn't, leave a thumbs down. That's fine. Hit subscribe if you want more of videos like this. If you want to be notified, ring that bell. And my name's been Sunny. You've been awesome. I hope you have a great day. And I will see you later. Bye.